So I'm having a peaceful little Sunday here, comparing 3 of the incense-based fragrances from Perfumer H, along with the audio of a daisy chain of air conditioners we've got going on here, dripping on top of each other, one floor down to the next, so sorry about that. First one up is Smoke, which I got from the Icons Discovery set. And then we've got White Smoke and Charcoal. Pro tip, if you're outside the UK having trouble getting samples, because the only Discovery set they really sell abroad, I believe, is the Icons, which is quite expensive because they're more like travel size. The website, Nose, based in France, has quite a few Perfumer H scents. If you find yourself ordering something else from there, they send you 7 free samples of your choice. So that's a good way to try some of the harder to find ones. So usually I'm skeptical of brands that have a ton of fragrances because they just kind of pump them out, it seems like carelessly, just hoping something will hit. But I really believe Perfumer H is in sort of a different category. 1, because it's run by one single perfumer. And 2, I find, well, first of all, that they're all pretty well done. But second of all, that there's a few subcategories within the line, maybe 4 or 5, that you can kind of tease out. So in a way, it's like you can find the genre you want and then pick your favorite version of that, varying in degrees of complexity and strength and longevity and things like that. So overall, the line isn't known for super long-lasting fragrances, and generally that's been my experience, but it does vary quite a lot from scent to scent. But overall, they're fairly soft, discreet fragrances. I wouldn't say necessarily simple in that some of them really smell quite complex and have a lot of layers to them, but none of them are massive projectors or super bold. But along with that, it's a very like signature style, a very kind of reserved and well-judged style throughout the line that makes them all quite likable to me. By far, the strongest and longest lasting fragrance out of the whole line that I've tried is Smoke, and I sprayed it here just a few minutes ago already on blotter. This one really has like a deep, heavy, rich, smoky, resinous incense quality to it. The top has a pleasant sort of almost coniferous brightness. We'll read some of the notes here because I think they're interesting. The website lists coriander seed, angelica, rose essence, chamomile, frankincense, agarwood, Mysore sandalwood, cedarwood, birch tar, and cade. So I think it's the birch tar and cade that gives a really dark, tarry smokiness to the base. They also describe it as a masterfully unique amber. And I would agree with the amber word. The dry down definitely feels resinous, ambery, warm, not really sweet, but I swear I get a touch of vanilla, although that's not listed. But this one, again, it doesn't project like a monster, but it lasts a really long time. I've sprayed it on in the evening and still smelled it on my skin the next day. I just think these heavier resinous materials tend to go a lot longer. So if you've tried Perfumer H and been disappointed by the longevity, maybe give these fragrances a try. But what I really like about it is it feels like one of those fragrances that slowly peels back the layers. Up front, you get more of sort of a resinous, incensey, coniferous smell, like something from far away. I suppose that's coming from what they list as angelica grain. I'm actually not sure what that is. And coriander seed, giving this like spicy freshness up top that slowly transitions into more woodiness, but also that dark sort of tarry cade and birch tar scents. So very complex to me, like very layered, multifaceted fragrance with great longevity and a really interesting and well done, elegantly done smell. Next up we have White Smoke. You might wonder, okay, what's the difference? I would say out of these 3, White Smoke is the next up in terms of strength and longevity. This one I really like. I think, spoiler alert, I think this is my favorite of the 3. The website says, this unique amber summons an ethereal white smoke resting on a bed of smoldering woods. Let's see the notes. Bergamot, so again, this freshness in the top, chamomile as well. Orris Absolute, that's interesting, I hadn't noticed that. Tobacco, again, it says sandalwood Mysore. I wonder if it really is Mysore sandalwood, that would be impressive. Cistus Absolute, and musk. So as the name says, the lack of the cade and the birch tar takes some of the blackness away out of this, but it's not a totally pure kind of ethereal smoke to my nose. It still has a bit of a weight behind it. So I wore this for the first half of today before a shower, and I felt like it just kept growing on my skin. It's really long lasting, really pleasant. I like that there is a coolness to this, but still down there in the base, sort of like a creamy, cedary smell. Tobacco, I hadn't clocked that before, but now that I smell deeply, I can imagine tobacco, but it's definitely not prominent. I do think looking at notes is useful. There's a bit of a backlash, and then there's always a backlash to the backlash about even talking about notes. I find it extremely useful because it's telling you what the perfumer wants you to smell. It's not an ingredient list, it's a list of suggestions to sort of entice your brain and your nose. And you can compare and contrast. Do I smell what they list? Do I not? It gives you a starting point. Of course, notes lists can't exactly tell us what a fragrance smells like, but I think at least with these fragrances, they're fairly straightforward. So I think they get you in the ballpark pretty well. So next up, charcoal, which I'm wearing now. I also really enjoy this one. So this is the lightest of them. Yeah, this actually smells the most white, or I should say the most green. This one has the most coniferous aspects to me, but it's also the lightest. This one started to die down into a skin set after just a couple hours. I suppose I get the mineral nature of like a charcoal, like it comes from a rock, but I don't get the blackness. There's nothing black to me about this. It's quite airy and quite green, which I think is why I like it so much, because I really love green fragrances, especially mixed with incense and resins. So the notes they list are cade, juniper, galbanum, there's the green, elemi from Iran, cedar, oh interesting, isobutyl quinoline, and cistus absolute. So I'm only really familiar with isobutyl from Rose Queer, and I don't get any of that bitter leatheriness here, so it must be used with a very light touch. So I'm hard pressed to say which is my favorite between charcoal and white smoke. I almost wish they sold a set of the smoky fragrances. There is a fourth called incense water, which I try to spray, but among many other things, I wasn't overly impressed. I suppose like the name implies, it's very light, almost like an incense cologne, which is quite an intriguing idea to me, but at the time that I sprayed some on in a store, it didn't make a big impression, so I don't have much to say about it. Now, you may be critical, as I am sometimes, of houses that have way too many scents, and Perfumer H has a lot of scents, but in a way, if you compare this to like Comme des Garçons, which has the incense series, and they have the 4 different incense, it's somewhat like that. And speaking of Comme des Garçons, I would say the charcoal reminds me the most of a Comme des Garçons incense, particularly Kyoto, the Japanese incense, because it has that really airy lightness to the incense. It's not heavy or dense or thick or black in any way. I thought my camera had stopped for a second, so hopefully I didn't pause there. But yeah, if they were cheaper, I would wear all 3 of these. I think if I had to choose one, white smoke in a way kind of splits the difference between the heavier, darker, deeper smoke and the light, airy green charcoal. But charcoal is extremely pleasant. This could be like a all year incense or a summer incense because it has that airiness, that fresh green brightness to it. Who knows, I may break down and get both of these here. Charcoal just feels like the kind of thing that you just want to keep spraying on throughout the day and get a hit of that fresh greenness and have that nice wispy incensey trail. But anyway, me being someone who doesn't like particularly heavy in your face like amouage style incense, those are often too harsh for me. They're just too much. They're too thick, they're too big, they're too bold. I really like when a perfumer like Lynn Harris, who has this really kind of delicate, restrained, refined style, when she approaches a heavier material, I think the results are just fantastic. Anyway, quickly, we've got a guest star here. I ordered this Unum Lavs, which is the famous scent of the Pope's vestments, room spray. I'll be honest, the reason I did is Lucky Scent, and here's a little coming soon preview, was offering a free gift with purchase of your choice, and one of those was a Maître et Perfumer H Incense sample set, and I've been dying to try this house for a long time. So I just looked for something I could buy so I could get that free sample set. So I'll be talking about those soon. It smells just like you imagine. It smells like Catholic Church and Pope's vestments. I didn't grow up going to Catholic ceremonies, so I don't have any traumatic memories associated with this. So I really enjoy it. It smells wonderful. Not the longest lasting room spray, but I'm very pleased, especially going into winter. And look at that bottle, and it has a funky texture, like it's like a plastic bag glued to the bottle. Really crazy stuff. I have tried the perfume a long time ago. Maybe I wasn't ready for it, but I remember not loving it back then. I think maybe it's just a little bit too on the nose, straight up frankincense church service smell to wear as a perfume for me. But as a room spray, amazing, loving it. So that's still available at Lucky Scent. Again, that's the Unum Lavs. Famously, he made a scent to that they sprayed on the Pope's clothes. And this is the room spray. I believe they call it Nuage Maison. Yes, Nuage Maison. So there you go. There's some thoughts on some really lovely smoky incense fragrances, perfect for fall, that I've been trying out lately.